My husband never looked at me the same after that nurse visit. The nurse tightened the cuff around my husband's arm. Her fingers were careful, practiced, pressing the Velcro down with a soft ripping sound that filled the small exam room. Noel sat on the paper-covered table, legs dangling like a kid, and he smiled at her. Soft. Nervous. The way he used to smile at me when we first met. She adjusted the stethoscope in her ears and placed it against his inner elbow. I watched from the plastic chair in the corner, purse in my lap, waiting. She pumped the bulb, the cuff inflated. Noel's smile didn't fade. If anything, it deepened. She glanced at the gauge, then at him. "You're doing great," she said. Her voice was warm, professional, but something in the way she said it made my stomach tighten. Noel's eyes stayed on her face, not in a creepy way, just attentive, like she was the only person in the room. I shifted in my chair. The vinyl squeaked. Neither of them looked at me. She laughed at something he whispered. I didn't catch what he said. His voice was too low, meant only for her, but she heard it, and she laughed. Not loud, just a soft exhale through her nose, a small smile tugging at her lips as she unwrapped the cuff from his arm. "You're funny," she said, folding the Velcro back on itself. Noel shrugged, still smiling. "I try." The air in the room felt different, lighter, like they were sharing a private joke I wasn't part of. I stood 3 feet away, suddenly invisible. I'd been married to Noel for 8 years. I knew his rhythms, I knew when he was comfortable, when he was performing, when he was genuinely himself. This was all 3. He was relaxed in a way I hadn't seen in months. She wrote something on his chart, asked about his diet, his sleep. He answered like she actually cared. Maybe she did. Or maybe that's just what good nurses do. But it didn't feel professional. It felt personal. And he leaned into it. When she left the room, he didn't look at me. He stared at the door like he wished she'd come back. I waited for him to say something. To acknowledge me. To make a joke about how thorough she was or how cold the room was. But he just sat there, hands resting on his thighs, eyes fixed on the door she'd just walked through. I cleared my throat. "Everything okay?" He blinked, turned his head toward me like he'd forgotten I was there. Fine." His voice was distant. Distracted. He hopped off the table and grabbed his jacket from the hook on the wall. I followed him out into the hallway. The clinic smelled like antiseptic and lavender. The fluorescent lights buzzed overhead. Noel walked ahead of me, not fast, but not waiting either. I caught up at the front desk. He was signing out, chatting with the receptionist, smiling again. But when he turned to me, the smile faded. Just a little. Just enough that I noticed. We walked to the car in silence. In the car, I asked if everything was okay. He said, "Yeah, too fast." He didn't look at me when he said it. Just stared straight ahead, hands gripping the steering wheel at 10 and 2. I buckled my seatbelt and watched him. "The nurse seemed nice," I said, testing. "Yeah," he said again, same flat tone, same avoidance. He turned the key. The engine rumbled to life. The radio came on, some talk show we never listened to. He didn't change it, just pulled out of the parking lot and drove. I wanted to ask more. Wanted to dig into the weird tension that had settled between us the moment that nurse walked into the room. But I didn't. Because asking felt needy. And I didn't want to be the wife who created problems out of nothing. So I stayed quiet. Looked out the window, watched the trees blur past, and told myself I was imagining things. That it was just a routine visit. That Noel was tired. That I was overthinking. But my chest felt tight, and the silence in the car felt heavier than it should. My name is Iris Calder, and the day a nurse took my husband's blood pressure was the day I lost him, without knowing it yet. I didn't realize it in the moment. Didn't see the fracture forming. Didn't understand that something fundamental had shifted. But looking back, that was the day everything changed. Before that appointment, Noel was present. Distracted sometimes, sure. Everyone gets distracted. But he was still mine, still ours, still part of the life we'd built together. After that appointment, he became a stranger living in my house. Polite, functional, emotionally absent. And I spent the next 6 months trying to figure out what I'd done wrong, trying to be softer, quieter, more understanding, trying to fix a problem I couldn't name. But the problem wasn't me. It was her. Or maybe it was him. Or maybe it was the way he looked at her and forgot to look at me. Either way, that appointment was the beginning of the end. I just didn't know it yet. I blamed stress, work, age, anything but what I felt in my chest. Noel had been working long hours. His company was restructuring, layoffs, budget cuts. He came home exhausted most nights, collapsing on the couch with his shoes still on. I told myself that was it. That he was just overwhelmed, that the distance between us was temporary, that once things settled at work, he'd come back to me. I made his favorite meals, left notes in his lunch, asked about his day. He answered in short sentences. Fine, busy, tired. I stopped asking as many questions, didn't want to add to his stress, gave him space, waited for him to reach for me first. He didn't, but I kept making excuses, kept rationalizing, kept believing that love was patient, and that patience would be enough. I didn't consider the alternative, didn't let myself think that maybe he wasn't stressed, maybe he was just done. Done with me. Done with us. Done with the quiet, predictable life we'd built. That thought was too big, too scary, so I pushed it down and kept blaming stress. He started dressing better, for appointments, not for me. I noticed it the second time he had a follow-up. He spent 20 minutes in the bathroom that morning, showered, shaved, used the cologne I bought him 2 Christmases ago that had been sitting untouched on the dresser. He came out wearing the navy button-up I liked, the one that fit him perfectly. You look nice, I said. He glanced at himself in the hallway mirror, adjusted his collar. Thanks. No smile, no reciprocation. He grabbed his keys and headed for the door. I asked if he wanted me to come with him. He paused. Hand on the doorknob. It's just a quick follow-up. You don't need to take time off work. I wasn't working that day. He knew that. But I didn't argue, just watched him leave. And when he came home an hour later, he was humming. Actually humming. A song I didn't recognize. He walked past me into the bedroom and changed into sweats. Back to his usual self. Like he'd taken off a costume. He insisted on going to follow-ups alone. Said it was faster. I offered to go with him the 3rd time. Told him I didn't mind sitting in the waiting room, that I could bring a book. He shook his head. It's fine, really. You don't need to waste your morning. Waste. Like spending time with him was a waste. I let it go. Didn't push. But it bothered me. We'd always gone to appointments together. When I had my mammogram last year, he came. Waited in the lobby with a crossword puzzle and bought me a coffee after. When he sprained his ankle playing basketball, I drove him to urgent care and stayed until they finished the x-rays. That's what we did. We showed up for each other. But now suddenly, he didn't want me there. He wanted to go alone. To sit in that sterile room with that nurse and her soft voice and her careful hands. Alone. Without me. And I told myself it was about convenience. About not disrupting my schedule. But deep down, I knew it was something else. I just didn't want to name it yet. At dinner, he checked his phone like he was waiting for someone else's words. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Chicken, rice, steamed broccoli. The same meal I'd made 100 times. I asked about his day. He said it was fine. Asked about mine. I told him. He nodded. Looked at his phone. The screen lit up. He smiled, just a flicker. Then caught himself. Put the phone face down on the table. Sorry, he said. But he wasn't, I could tell. His fingers twitched toward it every few minutes. Like a reflex. Like he couldn't help himself. I asked if he was expecting a call. No, just work stuff. But he wasn't checking email. He was checking texts. I saw the little message bubbles before he flipped it over. I didn't ask who, didn't want to sound paranoid, didn't want to be that wife. So I just ate, chewed, swallowed, watched him, and felt the distance grow wider with every bite. We used to talk for hours. Now we couldn't make it through dinner without him reaching for his phone. I tried harder, softer voice, less questions. He pulled away anyway. I thought maybe I was the problem. Maybe I'd been too pushy, too needy, too present. So I adjusted, spoke quieter, smiled more, gave him space when he came home, stopped asking about his appointments, stopped checking his phone when he left it on the counter, stopped initiating conversations that might lead to conflict. I became smaller, easier, less of a burden, and it didn't matter. He still pulled away, still spent evenings on his phone, still left for appointments dressed like he was going on a date, still came home lighter, happier, more alive than he ever was with me. I cooked his favorite meals. He ate without tasting. I asked if he wanted to watch a movie. He said he was tired. I suggested a weekend trip. He said maybe later. Later never came, and I sat there shrinking, trying, failing. wondering what else I could do to make him stay, to make him see me, to make him love me the way he used to. But love isn't something you can earn back, not when it's already gone. He mentioned the nurse's name casually, then corrected himself, then went quiet. We were folding laundry. I handed him a shirt, he took it, smoothed it flat on the bed. Brenna said my blood pressure's improving. The name hung in the air. Brenna. Not the nurse, Brenna. I kept folding. Matched socks, didn't look at him. That's good, he nodded, paused, then added, the nurse, I mean. Like he realized he'd said too much, like he needed to backpedal. I glanced at him. He was focused on the shirt in his hands, folding it slowly, deliberately, too deliberately. You talk to her a lot? I asked. My voice was light, casual. He shrugged. I mean, she's the one who checks me in. We chat. Chat. The word felt too intimate, too personal. I folded another towel. She seems nice. He didn't respond. Just finished folding and left the room. And I stood there, towel in hand, heart pounding, knowing I'd just touched something I wasn't supposed to see. Something he didn't want me to see. Brenna? I repeated the name in my head, and hated how easily it had rolled off his tongue. He laughed more after appointments, less at home. I started tracking it without meaning to. The way he'd come back from the clinic and smile at his phone, the way he'd hum in the shower, the way he seemed lighter, less burdened, like someone had lifted a weight I didn't know he was carrying. But at home, with me, he was heavy, distant, quiet. He didn't laugh at my jokes anymore, didn't tease me the way he used to. Didn't grab my hand when we walked to the car or kiss me goodnight without prompting. He was there, physically, but emotionally, he was somewhere else, with someone else. I didn't have proof, didn't have texts or photos or confessions, just a feeling, a pattern, a slow creeping realization that I was losing him to someone who made him feel the way I used to. Someone who listened to him, laughed with him, made him feel seen, and I was just the woman he came home to. The one who folded his laundry and made his dinner, and pretended not to notice that he was already gone. One night, I caught him smiling at his phone in the dark. I woke up to use the bathroom. The bedroom was dark, the curtains drawn, the clock glowing 2:14 a.m. Noel was on his side of the bed facing away from me, phone in his hand. The screen cast a soft blue glow across his face. And he was smiling. Not a small smile, a real one, the kind that reached his eyes, the kind he used to give me. I watched him for a minute. He typed something, waited, smiled wider when the response came. My chest tightened. I wanted to ask who he was talking to, wanted to reach over and grab the phone, wanted to scream. But I didn't. I just lay there, staring at his back, feeling the bed between us stretch into a canyon. Eventually, he put the phone down, rolled over, closed his eyes, and fell asleep like nothing had happened. I didn't sleep the rest of the night, just stared at the ceiling, counting the cracks, wondering who made him smile like that, and knowing, deep down, exactly who it was. I asked if he was happy. He said, I don't know, and turned his back. It was a Saturday morning. We were sitting on the couch, coffee in hand, sunlight streaming through the living room window. I'd been working up the courage for days, rehearsing the question, trying to find the right tone, not accusatory, not desperate, just honest. So I asked, Are you happy? He looked at me, really looked at me, for the first time in weeks, and I saw something flicker in his eyes. Guilt, confusion, sadness. I don't know, he said quietly. Then he stood, walked to the bedroom, closed the door. I sat there, coffee growing cold in my hand, staring at the closed door. I don't know. Not yes, not no, just uncertainty. And uncertainty felt worse than anger, worse than lies, because it meant he was questioning us, questioning me, questioning whether this life we'd built was worth staying for. And the answer I realized was maybe not. I set my coffee down and cried, quietly, so he wouldn't hear. That's when I realized he wasn't angry with me. He was already somewhere else. I'd spent weeks thinking I'd done something wrong, that I'd said something, forgotten something, been too much or not enough. But it wasn't anger. It was indifference. And indifference is so much worse. Anger means you still care. Anger means the person still has power over your emotions. But indifference means they've already let go. Noel wasn't pulling away because he was mad. He was pulling away because he'd already moved on. Emotionally, mentally, he was still living in our house, still sleeping in our bed, still going through the motions. But his heart wasn't here. It was with her, with Brenna, with someone who made him feel alive in a way I apparently couldn't anymore. And I couldn't compete with that, couldn't fight for someone who was already gone. So I stopped trying, stopped asking questions, stopped initiating conversations, stopped hoping things would get better. I just watched and waited for him to finally be honest about what I already knew. I saw them together by accident. No touching, no hiding. Worse than that, I'd gone to the clinic to pick up a prescription. My doctor's office was in the same building, different floor, but the pharmacy was shared. I was waiting in line when I saw him, Noel, sitting in the waiting area near the elevators, and next to him Brenna. She was in scrubs, navy blue, hair pulled back in a low ponytail. They were talking, leaning in, close but not too close. Professional enough that no one would look twice. But I looked. I watched the way she smiled at him, the way he nodded, eyes locked on hers, like whatever she was saying was the most important thing in the world. She touched his arm, just once, briefly, a casual gesture. But he didn't pull away, didn't flinch, just kept talking, kept smiling. I stood there, frozen, prescription in hand, watching my husband exist in a space where I didn't, where I couldn't. And it hurt worse than catching them kissing. Because this was intimacy. Real intimacy, the kind you can't fake. She leaned in when she spoke. He listened like it mattered. I couldn't hear what they were saying. The pharmacy was too far, the ambient noise too loud, but I didn't need to hear. Body language said everything. She leaned in, he leaned back, not away. Just enough to look at her fully, to hold space for her words. She gestured with her hands. He nodded, smiled, laughed at something, soft, genuine, the way he used to laugh with me. She glanced at her watch. Stood. He stood too. They said goodbye. No hug, no handshake, just a small wave, but the air between them was charged. I could feel it from across the room. She walked toward the elevators. He watched her go, and I saw it. The longing, the reluctance to leave. The way he stood there for a few extra seconds before finally turning and heading toward the exit. I stayed in line, got my prescription, drove home, and didn't say a word. Because what would I say? I saw you talking to her? That's not a crime, but it felt like one. Later, he told me I was imagining things. I waited until dinner, kept my voice calm. I saw you today. He looked up from his plate. Where? At the clinic, with the nurse. His face didn't change, didn't flush, didn't panic, just neutral. Okay? You were talking? Yeah, she asked how I was doing. We talked for a minute. It was longer than a minute, but I didn't correct him. It seemed friendly. He set his fork down, leaned back in his chair. What are you saying, Iris? I'm not saying anything, just observing. He sighed, long, frustrated. You're imagining things. She's my nurse. We talk. That's it. That's it? Yes, that's it. He picked up his fork again, took a bite. Conversation over. But I wasn't imagining things. I saw what I saw, felt what I felt. And his denial didn't erase that. It just confirmed that he wasn't going to be honest. Not yet. Maybe not ever. So I stopped pushing, stopped asking, and started watching, closer, quieter, with purpose. I stopped asking questions. I started watching. I became a student of his patterns. The way he checked his phone first thing in the morning. The way he smiled before reading a text. The way he dressed on appointment days versus regular days. The way he'd stay late at work on Thursdays. The same day Brenna worked the evening shift. I didn't snoop. Didn't go through his phone or his emails. Didn't need to. The evidence was in his behavior. In the way he talked about her casually. Like she was a friend. In the way he defended their interactions when I questioned them. In the way he pulled away from me while simultaneously becoming more alive. I watched and I waited for him to slip, to admit it, to finally be honest. But he didn't. He just kept living his double life. 1 foot in our marriage, 1 foot out the door, and I let him, because confronting him meant facing the truth, and I wasn't ready for that yet. So I just watched and felt my heart break a little more each day. He didn't come home one night, didn't explain, didn't apologize. It was a Tuesday. He texted around 6 p.m. Working late, don't wait up. I didn't. I ate dinner alone, watched TV, went to bed around 10, woke up at 2 a.m. His side of the bed was empty, cold, untouched. I checked my phone, no messages, no calls. I sat there in the dark, staring at the ceiling, knowing, just knowing. He came home at 4:47 a.m. I heard the front door, heard him move quietly through the house, heard the shower turn on. He slipped into bed around 5:15. Didn't touch me, didn't explain. Just lay there, back turned, breathing steady, pretending to sleep. In the morning, I asked where he was. Fell asleep at my desk, he said. Didn't want to drive home, exhausted. I nodded. Didn't push. Didn't ask why he didn't call, why he didn't text, why he showered at 5 a.m. Because I already knew, and asking would just force him to lie again. So I said nothing, and felt something inside me finally break. He finally admitted he felt seen by her. It came out during an argument, a real one, the kind we'd been avoiding for months. I'd asked him point blank if there was someone else. He said no. I said I didn't believe him. He got defensive, said I was paranoid, controlling. I stayed calm, asked him to explain the distance, the phone, the late nights, the way he looked at me like I was a stranger. And that's when he said it. She makes me feel seen. Not loved, not wanted, seen. And I don't? I asked. He hesitated, looked away. Not anymore. The words landed like a punch. I stood there, absorbing them, feeling my chest tighten. What does that mean? He ran his hand through his hair, frustrated, tired. It means you stopped seeing me a long time ago. You see the version of me you want, not who I actually am. And she sees you? Yeah, she does. I nodded, slowly. Then go. He blinked. What? If she sees you and I don't, then go. Be with her. He didn't move, didn't argue, just stood there. And I knew. I knew he'd already made his choice. I didn't beg, I didn't cry, I packed. I gave him 3 days to figure out what he wanted. He spent them on the couch, distant, guilty, avoidant. On the 3rd day I started packing, clothes, toiletries, books. I wasn't leaving forever, just long enough to breathe, to think, to exist outside the suffocating silence of our marriage. He watched from the doorway. Where are you going? My sister's. For how long? I don't know. He looked like he wanted to say something, to stop me, to apologize. But he didn't. He just stood there. And I kept packing. I loaded my car, drove away, didn't look back, didn't cry, just drove. And for the first time in months I felt light, free, like I'd been holding my breath underwater and finally surfaced. I didn't know what would happen next, didn't know if we'd fix this or end it, but I knew I couldn't stay, couldn't keep shrinking, couldn't keep pretending I didn't see what was right in front of me. So I left, and it felt like the first honest thing either of us had done in months. The house felt lighter without his silence in it. I stayed at my sister's for 2 weeks. She didn't ask many questions, just gave me space. Let me sleep in her guest room. Let me cry when I needed to. Let me sit in silence when I didn't want to talk. And slowly I started to feel like myself again. Started to remember who I was before I became someone's wife. Before I spent all my energy trying to fix a marriage that was already broken. I went for walks. Read books I'd been meaning to read. Cooked meals I actually wanted to eat. Laughed at my sister's terrible jokes. And realized I hadn't laughed, really laughed, in months. Noel texted a few times. Asked if I was okay, if we could talk. I didn't respond. Not out of spite, just out of self-preservation. Because talking meant rehashing, meant apologies that didn't mean anything, meant false promises and temporary fixes. And I was done with temporary. I wanted permanent. I wanted honest. I wanted someone who chose me without hesitation. And that person wasn't Noel. Months later he called, said he'd made a mistake. It was early evening. I was at my new apartment. Small. 1 bedroom. Mine. The phone rang. His name lit up the screen. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Hello? Iris. Hi. His voice was softer than I remembered. Tentative. It's been a while. Yeah. Silence. Then I made a mistake. I didn't respond, just waited. I don't know what I thought, but I was wrong. About her. About us. About everything. Okay. I want to try again if you're willing. I looked around my apartment at the plants on the windowsill, the books stacked on the coffee table, the quiet, peaceful space I'd built without him. I'm not, I said. Iris? You chose her. You stopped choosing me, and I spent months trying to understand why, trying to fix it, but I can't fix something you broke. I know, and I'm sorry. I believe you, but sorry doesn't change anything. He was quiet. Then softly, can we at least talk? In person? No. I hung up and didn't cry. I told him the truth. He didn't cheat with his body. He cheated with his attention, and I learned to live without it. We met once more. For paperwork, divorce papers. He looked thinner, tired, older. We sat across from each other in a lawyer's office that smelled like stale coffee and old carpet. Signed our names. Divided our lives into neat legal columns. When it was over, he asked if I hated him. I said no, and I meant it. I didn't hate him, I just didn't love him anymore. He'd given his attention to someone else, his energy, his laughter, his time, and attention is the currency of love. Without it, there's nothing. He didn't kiss her, didn't sleep with her, but he gave her the parts of himself he'd stopped giving me. And that was the real betrayal. Not the body, the heart, the mind, the choice to see someone else and stop seeing me. I learned to live without his attention, without his presence, without him, and I learned I was stronger than I thought, happier than I'd been in years. Free in a way I'd forgotten was possible. He chose her, and in doing so, he set me free. I don't regret the marriage, but I don't regret the divorce either. I just regret not leaving sooner.